It's Monday, February 24, 2025. Now, it's a beautiful day out here. It's mostly cloudy, so we're not getting a lot of the heat from the sun, but it's 2 degrees, no less. You can see the snow is mostly melted off the big truck here, and I've had to actually put down some ice melter here. I can't see the screen, so I'm not sure what I'm showing you, because as the snow melts and then the breeze comes by, it freezes on top, and then the big guy falls down, as you've seen in the past. You can hear in the background, you can hear my barn fan. You see the louvers open. Now I'm going to say that's a good sign. I'm trying not to get too excited about that, because not far away from that fan is my warming cabinet, and it's running at 30°C, just holding some honey warm, so it's definitely dissipating some heat as time goes by. But I'm gonna go look in here anyway, see what's going on. So let's hold at 4.5 degrees. Being 2 degrees outside, at 4.5 degrees in here, it's there's not a lot of heat being created in here. 2 degrees outside with this many colonies, being that they're healthy, that fan should be struggling to keep up. So I'm trying not to let, like, if that fan wasn't running, I would be very upset, but I'm trying not to get too worried about this at this point, because there's nothing I can do anyway, right? Like farmers always say, there's always next year. And that's how long I have to wait to fix my mistake or solve my problem. Let's look inside some of these anyway, right? I'm using my white light until things get crazy. I can really only reach this one. I'd need to pull this out with a pallet jack to get any farther back. But let's have a quick look. I like the look of that. Yeah. See that pad? That's one of those formic pads I put on. You know, they're benign in about 5 days, so leaving that on is not a big deal. So that one looks good too. Now these two I can tell were 2 of the 50 that generous beekeeper gave me on loan. I have to replace them at some time. Take them back. I mean, take them back in numbers. Obviously, I'm not taking these specific colonies back. Now this is a 23, so it's a little bit older. And it's covered in poop, and it's yeah, it's dead. Oh, look at that one. Okay. And that's one of the, there was a beekeeper, a hobbyist near me. He just outright gave me 8 colonies. That's one of them. Now I'm sure these are 6s. I've seen these before, and these are dead. This one is all but dead. Well, boy, that could be something yet, right? And I'm pretty sure, yeah. And I think this one's dead too. I'm not going to move my sensors. So, you know, it's a mixed bag from what I can see. This one, I think this one was dead before. Well, there's a little cluster there, but some poop. These were really not supposed to be anything. One of them was the catch-all nuke that sat outside the honey house. And look at that. That's just dead and poopy. So that one is done. I'll just leave that lid upside down so I don't need to look in that again. Yeah, so there's something here. There's a lot of mortality yet. See, there's a little something there. And that's a formic pad too. I think that one is maybe dead anyway. Hard to reach. I think that one's gone as well. Yeah, so there's definitely mortality here. I'll have a minimum of 16 this year. I kind of know for sure because I'm buying 16. One of the fellas that's buying equipment from me imports some packages. And so we made a deal that I would buy 16 of his packages kind of in return for him buying my equipment. He's a very good guy to deal with, so I really appreciate his help that way. So I'll have 16. And why 16, you say? Well, why 16? Well, it's kind of worked out financially between, what I'm making on the equipment and what they cost. But 16, that I run my bees kind of in quads, sets of 4 sort of thing. And so that's 4 sets of 4. And what I'm going to try to do is to put those bees on very fresh equipment. Now exactly what that's going to be I haven't decided, because exactly what it's going to be will depend on availability of equipment, availability of time to work, to put it all together. So I want to put these packages on fresh equipment. I'll OA vaporize them very soon after installation. I think I have up to 7 days, but I'll try to get it in there well within that, just to knock any mites down. So I'm just trying to, sorry, the light is really weird in here. I'm just trying to take to heart stuff that I've known for a long time and was reinforced this weekend with listening to Bob Binney speak about contaminated comb and old comb. Even though my comb really isn't that old, there's definitely virus contamination possibility in there. So I'd like to put new comb in there. I might even put them on foundation. I might wax some foundation, put in there, let them draw from scratch. That's what I did my first year, and I had no loss my first winter. So I want to recreate those days. Might seem radical to say, oh, you can't put them on foundation. Well, you absolutely can. I think it was the 12th of May that I hived my first packages back in 2015. So I'm kind of looking at doing that again. So I can't guarantee exactly how that's going to look because there's a lot of moving parts still. So I will have 16, and it looks like I'll have 17. We'll see, right? I think I put 100 and, I don't know, more than 100, 110, 120 into winter. If I come out with half of those, that'll give me quite a bit to work with, right? That'll give me a good start. I'm really good at splitting bees. I'm really good at making bees. I'm really good at making queens. So that's what the season's going to look like. But for now, I have a lot of other stuff to keep me busy, so I don't need to be poking around in here, wasting my time and make myself worry. I just heard the fan running for the first time in a long time. And that's fine because it's been really cold here. When it's cold here, the fan never runs because the building just sheds all the heat it needs to shed to keep the bees cool. So anyway, I think we'll head back over to the shop. There's a few things I need to take care of today. It's going to be a busy week, and I really appreciate you watching. Well, a warm day, I decided to come out, clear off some snow here, get at my building now. And while I'm here, we might as well take a walk down the row and see what's alive and what's not. Now, I don't really want to open them up, so I'm not really sure what we're gonna see here. My thinking is there's not that many, but I do see some flight. Let's see. I see some of this. And I see a lot of this. Well, there's one. I'm seeing a lot of this. That's just a pile of poop and dead bees. As is that. Man, that one looked pretty vigorous. Let's see, same thing. Just a lot of poop. This one I stole the lid off of. It was dead, so I stole the lid off it. Same thing here. Dead bees on the snow, which is sort of a good sign. Same thing here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think of that. It's not really all that warm. It's a cool breeze. My fingers are cold. So I'll pack this in and go in and work in the shop for a while. It looks like there's one. So I guess that's what you call proof of concept, right? They can survive. It's Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. And you can see I'm outdoors finally. I've been in the shop forever. I'm kind of bundled up, but it's not really all that cold. There's just a bit of a breeze here. Fortunately, it's kind of a south breeze, it seems. So typically it's not as chilling as the north breeze. So I'm out here at the sea can. That took me some doing to get the doors open because, as you know, the doors on a sea can latch at the bottom and the top. So they always get frozen in the bottom. Ironically, I have a nice ice chipper for this situation, or for the sea can, but I purchased the ice chipper to scrape the wax and debris off the floor and clean out the sea can from time to time. So the ice chipper was inside the sea can, so I had to get one door open so I could use it to chip away the other one. But between my muscle and the tractor's might, we got the doors open. Now, what am I doing here today? I've got an order for 360 frames of drawn honeycomb, and it's kind of ironic because when you're dealing with a sea can particularly, it's long and narrow, so you have to put things in sequentially, and there's a lot of thought and planning goes into that. However, often that thought and planning is either not helpful or actually detrimental to what's actually going to happen. So I've I plan to use my comb as, say, splitting and brood chambers and stuff in the spring. So I leave my undrawn frames and my brood comb at the front here, accessible, and then I have my partially drawn frames, my rewaxed frames that I want to put on my honey flow at the beginning, and then at the back I have the honeycomb to mop up the end of a honey flow. Yeah, that's right. I've got to unload the whole thing to get at my honeycomb. So fortunately, it's not a really tough job physically. It just takes a while because I need to get the tractor and pull everything out. Take you over there and get a closer look at what I'm up against. Okay, so there's kind of a pallet of random stuff here. That's easy enough. There's another pallet of random stuff up here. The challenge really, it's not really a huge challenge, but I have to be very careful with this is that I've got the Honey Super stacked too high in here, 2 pallets high, and so I need to pull off that top pallet before I can pull the bottom one out. So it's just a bit of doing to accomplish this. So I guess no more complaining about it, and we'll just get to it. Okay, I've got most of the boxes out here. There's quite a few left in the building as I was able to get past them to the back. So now I thought I've got to sort these. I want to go through them, look at every one of the 360 frames just to make sure I'm not sending this guy anything that's maybe not drawn, or I've got quite a few of my foundationless honey frames in here. You might see the sun through that. So they just have wires, and particularly they're larger cells. So it's not really something that he probably wants to put in a brood chamber. So I'm checking out every one of these frames, and this is nice stuff. This is really nice stuff. It's most of it's drawn fresh last year onto good condition frames, and I think he'll be very happy with it. So what I did was, I was thinking, I need somewhere to sort this stuff. I jumped on the tractor and thought I'll just go back and get a couple pallets, and then I had a second thought. I'll go back and get the truck because this has got to go in the truck anyway. So I brought the truck right out here, and I'm just packing them away. I'm pretty sure I can get them all in that. It's an 8-foot bed on this truck, so I should be able to get them all in pretty easily. All right. Beautiful, beautiful comb. There are the odd foundationless in here, so I want to make sure he doesn't get those. I don't mind if he gets those, I just don't think he likely wants them. Might sound like a lot going through 360 frames. It really doesn't take that long. And I'm encouraged to work quickly because my toes are cold. I didn't wear my electric socks today. Beekeeping. The art of putting things on top of other things. It's Thursday, February 27th, 2025. So I didn't really do any video yesterday, but I took my trailer to the dipper and delivered all that equipment. So it's being picked up there by the customers. And all these boxes because there was a guy, I delivered a bunch of comb to a guy. So I put it in his boxes and brought mine home. And so, well, I'll show you in the truck here what I got. So I bought enough frames to replace the frames that I just sold. Got to keep up, you know. And I got a few boxes, a few of the 6-frame boxes. They're nice little boxes. And I got a few covers dipped for myself. So there's a few here. It's my little brand I've got. It's a bit dark. It says Faith Woodcraft there. And got those dipped nicely. And so these frames get scrambled on the way home. So I'm going to have to take these out of there. But right now, I have other things to do. I need to go in the building. I'll probably take the honey out of the cabinet, and I might put more honey in there. And I have to go on this side. There's a bunch of pails, 3 kg pails in there. I need to get about 25 of them ready and head out to the packer tomorrow. So again, I might not be doing much video tomorrow. I usually don't do a lot of video when I'm away from home. It's just all work. It's just yesterday, boy, oh boy. Yesterday turned into a 16-hour day, but that was partly because on the way home from the dipper, I dropped by Ian's place and we had a really good visit yesterday afternoon. And so I left there kind of late and I got home late. So it's always nice to see him. Always a good conversation between us. So I got to get this done. It's cooled off a lot. It was, I think it was above freezing yesterday, but right now it's like -8 and a north wind. So it's pretty cold here with holding the camera with my bare hands. I'm going to go in the honey house and get those pails now. That's the way it's supposed to work, but it doesn't always work that way. So people are often asking, every time I, kind of show my cabinet, etc., they're saying, well, what temperature, honey, and yada, yada, yada. There's no formula. All I can tell you is you need to kind of use the time and temperature, the least time and temperature that you can to achieve this. And that's done through experimentation, because it has a lot to do with your honey, your container, your heating box or oven if you're using that. In this configuration, this is 600 pounds of honey. There's 50 pounds in each pail. They're only filled to about here. I'm an old man, so don't want to lift too much weight. And when I can, I get the tractor to. But what you didn't see was I muscled every one of these pails from the back of the shed over here by the door. So I've already lifted them. And what I'm going to say is, I always hesitate to give you numbers, because you always get those that argue with you, and even those who will use that as gospel and then maybe run into problems themselves. You need to do your own experimentation. I've ruined a lot of honey finding the numbers that I use, and I use a minimal amount of heat and a minimal amount of time. Now, when you're talking about 600 pounds in 50-pound containers, that's still a lot of time and a reasonable amount of heat. I'll run this cabinet at 47 degrees C for 7 days, and that's perfect. The honey is not too hot, but it's been warmed enough to cream. This stuff I'm going to be packing liquid, so I may be able to get away with not holding it that warm for that long. You can hear my fan screaming. Its kind of bearings are wore out. It's got a lot of hours on it. Now, once that 7 days is up, if I don't want to use that honey right away, so if I don't want to take it to the packer or pack it myself right away, I turn that down and I hold that honey at 30 degrees C. I feel that's a pretty reasonable temperature. It's really not that warm. And so the honey I took out of there, I'm going to clean the pails a little bit, because they always get a bit messy. Putting this pallet on there makes them messy. And then I'm going to put that in my truck for packing tomorrow. Yeah, so this is what I have to do. I have to change my controller to 47. How did I come up with 47? I'm going to tell you, but, there's going to be those who always misinterpret what I say. I can only go by the regulations implemented by my country. And the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, as far as I can tell, I've never found any definitive reference to what the definition of raw honey is. But what they do say is honey that has not been heated beyond that temperature which is required for handling. And I don't know if straining is specifically included in that, but I think straining is kind of what they mean. Pumping and straining and things like that. So to me, reading between the lines, that means that it's not pasteurized, because pasteurized is much higher than that. So it's not been heated for really any other reason, just for straining and pumping and whatnot. And the other thing, the only place I've ever seen a temperature listed is in the Canadian organic honey standards. I'm not producing organic honey, don't get on me about that. However, it's the only other place I've ever seen a temperature. And that temperature, they said that if the honey has not been heated, or if the honey has been heated over 47 C, it's not considered organic honey anymore. So that's why I try to stay sub 47. And this takes a long time. Like, this will take 24 hours for this to even get close to 47. And then it takes a long, long time for that honey to warm up. There's a lot of it in there. The heater is not a real high energy heater. And, it's in a cold building, and it's only I think I put 1 inch of insulation on this building. I have a little temperature sensor here I put in. So it's I built this cabinet out of scrap wood, and Some of it doesn't fit very well and whatnot, but boy, it sure does the job. I've been using that thing for years, and sounds like I need to put a new fan in that. Okay, and now just clean up those pails and get them in the truck. It's Friday, February 28th, 2025. And I'm glad I've got a warm shop because it's ever miserable outside. It's sunny, you can see, the sky is blue, but there's a 30-kilometer-an-hour north wind out there. It's really miserable. It's minus 14 C, so it's not warm either. It's not a nice day. I had to work outside today for a little bit, and I was so glad to come in where it was warm. Now, what have I been doing today? My big order is done and gone, so I have to make sure I stay in the saddle and get some more work done. I want to make some bee escapes for myself. I want to make some of my honey super pallets, the ones that hold a quad of 4 honey supers. Maybe only half a dozen of those, perhaps. And let's see, what else? There's always little things that I want to toy with, and there's actually a little thing that I've been toying with here today. So I'll show you what's going on with that. This is a fun little mating nuke. It's medium depth. It's got 5 frames. I trim these to 1.25 inches so that I have plenty of management space in here. If you leave them at 1 3/8, they get a little bit tight. So they're nice and roomy, easy to manage. So what happens, and just for your reference, that's an 11-inch. That's a 9-inch top bar, and they're a simple top bar. They're not made the same as a big hive. Often people will make these, and they don't even dado that. They rabbit it so that it's thinner on the end. I find it's actually easier to machine this way, and it's much easier to assemble as well. So this has got more than half a sheet of foundation here. So actually it's not more than half a sheet, it's more than 1/3 of a sheet. Usually when I make these, I'll cut the sheet in 3, and that'll give you a sheet that's about that wide, give you a little space at the edge. I have never found an issue with that, but these were made with 2 sheets per 2 frames per sheet of medium foundation. So these little mating nukes, they're kind of nice. One nice thing about them is that they're 1/4 the size of a standard 10 frame Langstroth box. So when you go to get these drawn out, you can set 4 of these on a Langstroth box and have the bees come up and draw them out. I've found that working these a year ahead is best, that I just use them as tiny honey supers, and I get them to fill these with honey, extract them. I have to uncap them by hand with a bread knife, but they go in my radial extractor just fine. Then I can use them. They're nicely drawn for the following year. So I've got a couple of these. I've just got 2 that I built. I built them a while back, and I've always been going to build some more and never have. But just the box, and they're pretty easy because it's just my normal 1x8 that I use. I cut it down a little bit, and then I have to mill the frame rest, and then mill the end. This one got warped, so it was kind of weird the way it got milled, but it's just a rabbet joint. It's nothing too major, so it's very easy to cut the parts on those. I'll do a video on how I make these up, and SketchUp plans will always be online too. However, what I started to do is I started cleaning up the shop, and I realized I had a whole bunch of lumber and a whole bunch of plywood pieces. And so I went and got every plywood piece that was big enough for a bottom board, and I cut it. So this is actually the same width as that box, but it's an inch longer, just to give you a little bit of a landing board there. I don't know that that's necessary or even advisable, but that's what I did. So here's kind of what that looks like on this one. It's not glued together or anything yet. So on the top, I've got a 3/8 shim. That's a 3/4 wide and 3/8 tall shim here. And so I've got a bunch of questions for you. Is that the proper shim height? I know Bob Binney has standardized on 3/8 shims, and he says they're great and they're even advantageous in his opinion for height. Now, I think on a mating nuke that would be just fine. There's one other question I have though. Do I put this shim all the way around and then take the box and then drill a hole in the box and put my round plastic entrance disc on there? The advantages to the entrance disc are it has a slot that's a queen excluder size, so my queen can't get out. It has a ventilation setting so that I can close the entrance right down if I want to move these or for whatever other reason. And also, during robbing season, these little nukes are susceptible to robbing. So I can turn that dial and just bring that right down to the width of 1B. So I can have 1B entrance, and they can usually defend that quite well. So the question is, should I do that? Drill a hole and then put that dial on here? And if I should do that, then what's the purpose of this landing board? Is this just looks weird if you don't have an entrance, right? The entrance would be up here somewhere. Landing boards, I know they're really more for the beekeeper than the bees. The bees don't seem to care whether it's there or not. It's always nice to see the bees land there, and you can see if they've got pollen, or you can, whatever else you might want to see with the bees. So put some comments in the comment section there and tell me what you think I should do. Should I take this shim and cut it so that there's a small opening here? Then I don't have to drill a hole and I don't have to put a dial on there, so it's less assembly time and it's less cost. Those dials, I'm not worried about the cost of them, but it is less cost. But then I can't easily, reduce it right down. I can't easily close it off, if I need to move them or something. So tell me what you think of that. So take these off for now. And then I also decided to put feet on this like this. And I was looking at that. And I had some of my parts sitting here from my covers, and my top cleats, my end cleats are 2 inches wide, and I set one of those on here, and I thought, it looks a little bit chunky, it looks a bit heavy for that. And then I was thinking, if it's just a little bit smaller, that might look okay, but how much smaller? And then I thought, if I went 1.5 inches, I could use up a whole bunch of my scrap 2x4s and 2x6s that are laying around the shop. So I did exactly that. I cut up, this is just one stack. I've got another bundle of over there. So I cut up a whole bunch of my planks in my table saw. I just cut them 3/4 of an inch wide. You can see that used to be a 2x4. And some of them have been used for other things. They're going to drill a hole in them or something. That doesn't matter at all. This one, I certainly hide that. I'll just put that on the side that glues to the plywood. So that's kind of what I have tentatively decided on for feet. I find that if you don't have feet, that if you set a box or hive or something on, the ground, or you even set it on a pallet or anything else, it's always going to rock and wobble around. If you have feet on it, that helps with stability. And I don't think these need to interlock with covers and whatnot like I do with a lot of my full equipment. If I were to inset these to lock into anything, that would put them really close together and I think make the hive a little bit unstable. So that's what I'm working on here. Just kind of a low stress job that I just have questions and how can I come upon the best design. I glue everything together so there's no going back once I put it together. So have a discussion in the comments what I should do with this project. I'll make SketchUp plans once we kind of decide together how it's going to go. So you can see the pile of this pile, and there's three of these piles here. Boy, I'm not good at this. There's another one there, another one there. So there's a lot of them. There's probably almost 70 of them. So if I can do this well, I'll make them all up, and whether or not I'm going to use them all myself, maybe not, but then I can just put them up for sale and see if anybody else wants them. The other decision to make is the lid. What do you do for a lid? And I have made mini nukes before, but mini quads, and I've made individual lids for them. And what I've done for those, which I think I'll do for these, is I start with a piece of 1/2-inch plywood. So, 2/3 of this kind of thing. Start with a piece of 1/2-inch plywood. I'll cut a 2-inch feed hole, just like everything else, so I can feed the little nukes if I need to. And then I put a little, I think it was a 3/8 shim around the bottom of it, just to give it a little bit of lift off the frames. And those were nice little lids, and they seem to work well. So I'm thinking that that's the way I'll go with those. I might need a brick or something on them. We need but I don't know. I know a beekeeper who uses these nukes specifically, and he builds a full-on 3/4 inch top cleat, end cleat kind of a cover, just like I do for my nukes and my full colonies. And granted, they do look a little odd because they're very beefy for the size of them, but I know where he lives and he puts up with a lot of wind. So having a nice heavy cover on these little nukes, I think really works for him. So I believe, I've never asked him that, but I believe that's probably why he does that. Because it does, 3/4 inch plywood is not cheap. And you want to use as little of it as you really can get away with. So that's kind of what's going on in the wood shop right now. A little bit of a less of a hectic day, and I can work inside out of the cold. So that's really nice. I'll put this together now for you, and I really want to thank you for watching. I know some of you make your weekend of it, and I really appreciate that. I think it's really special that I've become part of so many people's weekends. But next week, they say a little bit warmer weather. So I'm really looking forward to that. So have a really great weekend and a great week coming up. And take care and have fun.